Well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows who I'm introducing, but I would like to introduce former JCAP graduate. Yeah, did you graduate JCAP, Courtney? Director, and know her real well. I appreciate all the work she does, and here she is.
Got you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bill. I know Bill used to come to the group that I ran at the Methodist church in town. That was a long time ago. That's right. Yeah. So, so a lot of you know me. If you don't, I am Courtney Jenkins, and my son is a struggling addict. So I just want to tell you kind of our story as a family. And so our issues started really when Caleb was in high school, probably about 10 years ago. And he just really struggled with life in general. And then we moved here when he was a freshman, and it just got really difficult for him, and he got in with the wrong crowd and made some really poor choices himself. And by the time he graduated from high school, he was addicted to pills. And then the summer after high school, he had a really great job as a CNC operator and was making a lot of money, but was using it all in pills. And conveniently, his dealer was right across the street from where he worked, and so it was just so nice for him. And then his dealer, I don't know if he got busted, whatever, Caleb started going to South Bend to get pills. And as you can imagine, pretty soon there weren't any pills, but heroin was so much cheaper and so much easier. And so he switched, and within just a couple of weeks, he started shooting up, and then within a couple months, he started switching off and on between heroin and meth, because then he could sleep when he needed to, and he could be awake for long periods of time when he needed to. And during this time, I didn't know anything about addiction. Nothing. It was completely foreign to me. I just knew that he was not my kid. He was very different, and it became really hard. And then he came home one night. He needed to fix something on his car. He wasn't living with us, and I saw him on meth for the first time, and I didn't know he had been using meth. And I kind of lost my crap. And I screamed and I yelled, and it was awful. And that was kind of our life for a couple of years. And I was really depressed, and I went to bed. And I had 3 younger daughters. It was very unfair to them, but I would get up in the morning and I would make breakfast and lunch for them, like pack their lunches, and drive them to school in my bathrobe, and come home and go to bed. Set an alarm for 2:30 so I could get up and pick them up from school, and then maybe make dinner. We ate a lot of cereal, and then I would go to bed. And most of the time I didn't really go to bed. I would stay up all night, and I would obsess over where my kid was and what he was doing, and I became like really crazy. Like, I was really crazy. But it was one of those nights that things kind of shifted into focus for me. And I was sitting in our sunroom. I had been obsessively looking out the windows, hoping that he would come home. And at like 3 a.m, I sat down on the couch and I started praying. And I just asked God to please help me understand and help me know how to help my son, and help me to find peace. I really wanted peace because I just felt so miserable. And the answer that I got was something that I had known my whole life, but had never really had to apply to my life. I've never really lost anybody really close to me. I mean, my grandparents, but they were really old, and you kind of expect that. And so after I prayed, I sat there, and I heard that little voice, and it said, your son's going to be healed. It might not be here on this earth, but he will be healed. And for whatever reason, I felt like I could breathe. And I just thought, okay, if he dies, that's okay, because I'll see him again, and he will be healthy. He will be happy, and he will know how much he's loved. And right now, he doesn't know how much he's loved, and he doesn't know how hard this is for all of us. Thank you. And so I have held on to that for a good 6 or 7 years now. And then sometimes that's a really hard thing to hold on to, because there's been some really very, very low points for Caleb and for our family. And during those times, I have caught myself too many times praying that he would just die, because I really felt like that was the only way out of this. And I felt like it was a great solution. Anyway, during that same time period, just within a couple of weeks before or after that, there was a gentleman he's from this area, Mickey Ashpool. Many of you might know him. He had sent our son to rehab the first time, and he reached out to me and suggested that I start a friends and family group and get involved with a program called Smart Recovery. And so I did that. I mean, it took me a little while, and he kept calling because I was too busy laying in bed. And so I finally took the course, and I got certified to lead these support groups for friends and family. And it was a wonderful experience for me. I hope it was for the people that came, because we were able to sit in a room and talk about the hurt that we were feeling and the guilt that we felt for raising a child that struggled with addiction, and how it felt to have your neighbors see their picture in the paper for an arrest, and just all those hard things. And it kind of became this safe place for me. And then about 8 years ago, just over 8 years ago, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, I had never told my family that Caleb struggled with addiction. Clint's family didn't know, my family didn't know. It was just this dirty little secret that we kept and tried to hide because it was awful. And Caleb was in rehab, and I couldn't sleep, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I made a Facebook post, and I said, the holidays are really different for us this year, and Caleb won't be here for Christmas, and he wasn't here for Thanksgiving, but I'm really proud of him, and I'm really hopeful that this time away from us right now will ensure that we have lots more Christmases with him. And then I went to bed, and I felt this huge relief, like I can breathe. And then I woke up the next morning at 6 o'clock, and I panicked, and I grabbed my phone to delete the post, because I thought, what? You just put all your dirty laundry right there on the lawn. And what I found was that already at 6 o'clock in the morning, there were 25 to 30 comments on the post of people just saying, we're praying for you. We love your family. We've struggled through this same thing. They were all pretty vague, just lots of prayers. But in my private messages, I think by 6 in the morning, I had like 50 some private messages from families saying, we don't know what to do either. Our daughter's struggling. My nephew is really bad. My brother died of an overdose. Just all of these families who had been affected, people that I knew, that I was friends with, and I didn't know their struggle, and they didn't know mine. And it was really that morning that I just thought, I'm done. I'm not keeping this a secret anymore. I cannot, and I'm not going to, because it's not fair. I still love my son, and by trying to hide this, I felt like I was ashamed of him, and I didn't want him to feel like I was ashamed. And so I just started talking about it, and I can remember that spring, sitting at a tennis match for our daughter Libby, and it was pretty embarrassing now that I look back on it, because I was really rude. But this lady was talking about how her son was going to Vassar, and oh my gosh, an Ivy League school, and she was just going on and on. And she looked at me then, and she was like, oh, you have an older son. What's he doing? And I was like, oh, he's in jail right now. He's a meth addict. And then I got up and walked away, and she walked away really fast. And I just thought, listen, lady, like, this is my life. I mean, it was a bad day, but whatever. I shouldn't have been so rude. But at the same time, what I've learned over these past years is that sometimes I'm going to have a bad day, and I'm going to go to bed, or I'm going to drop a lot of F-bombs, or I'm going to whatever. And it's okay, because I'm hurt, and I'm not perfect, and I don't handle things perfectly. And I have to give my son that same grace. There's times where he has a bad day, and just because he's clean doesn't mean that he keeps his room clean and cleans the bathroom and takes out the trash without being told. He's still a dumb kid, and I mean, he's 26. He really should know these things. But he's human, and I can't expect perfection. And so, anyway, from the family support group that I started running, and starting to just be more vocal and share our story and our struggle. It wasn't a story. It was life, and it was hard, and it was a struggle. But I started to realize that if I wanted to fix my son, and I really, really believed that I could fix him, because as a mom, that's what we do. We fix. And so I thought I could fix him, and I thought the very best way for me to find out that information was if I could go into the jail, teach smart recovery to the girls in there, that they would be able to tell me exactly what I needed to do or say to fix my child. And so it took a while, but I started volunteering and going in twice a week, and I don't think I missed very often, if ever. If I was going to miss, I made sure to tell them ahead of time, because what I very quickly learned was that for them to trust me, they had to believe me, and I had to be really open and vulnerable with them and share with them my true intentions for sitting in that jail with them. And so I was very honest, and I told them, I'm here because I want to know what I have to do to fix my kid. And I'm still really close with so many of those girls that were in the jail, and it was always such a blessing for me. During the summer, it was kind of hard to go because, I went at 10 o'clock, and that's middle of the day. You're just getting ready to go out to the pool and have fun. But I always went, and when I came home, walking out of that jail, you just feel good. Those girls made me feel good. They made me feel like there was hope, and seeing some of them get out and then do good or struggle, or just to have them call and say, I just need somebody to talk to. It helped me so much. And that then led to Sheriff Dukes. When he was elected, he asked me if I would come and pick up the JCAP program. And so I really had the privilege to do so. That was a part of my life that I can't describe the impact that it had on me and on my family, the joy that it brought, and the hope. Are you trying to tell me to shut up? Please let me know when I need to be quiet. Oh, sheesh. I'll slow down. But through the JCAP program, not only did it help me understand that, one, I was not ever going to be able to fix my son. But there were things that I could do to walk alongside him and help him. One of the things that I really hate in the recovery world, there's two things that I really, really hate. I hate going to an AA meeting and hearing people say, "Hi, my name's Courtney, I'm an addict." I'm like, no, you're not. You are so much more than that. Tell me something else about yourself. I don't like that. The other thing that I hate in the recovery world is that there's lots of mom groups and parents of addict groups. And the common theme in those groups is that you cannot control it. You can't fix it. You're not going to save your child. So step back and make them figure it out on their own. You can't do it. And I get it to a point. Like, we can't enable. I don't have to give my son a warm place to sleep and use, you know? I don't have to give him money. I don't have to do those things. But in my mind, that always felt so wrong, and I really struggled with it because my belief was at some point, my son is going to want help. And if I have damaged that relationship beyond repair and allowed it to be damaged beyond repair, I'm not going to be the person that he goes to ask for help. And if you don't go to your mom to ask for help, who do you go to? And I just really believed that we had to maintain a relationship. And so it was hard to walk that line, and we often crossed over into enabling. We often crossed over into yelling and screaming and calling him names, which was really unhealthy. But we tried to maintain that balance as best that we could because, and it was hard because my husband didn't believe that. He really just felt like, let him go. And as a mom, I could not do it. And I prayed over it. And I just thought, no, I cannot. If Jesus left the 99 to go find the one, am I really going to leave my one to focus on my 3? Like, come on, Courtney, you can do 4. Like, we're not asking a lot. And so I worked really hard to try to maintain that and try to balance that between myself and my husband, between my son and my husband, and between myself and my girls. It was a very difficult balancing act, and one that I failed at over and over again. And that often those failures come back up in our family. So Caleb's struggle back then was overwhelming, and it was new, and it was hard. But as I worked with the girls in the jail and then transitioned to the JCAP program, I learned so much, and it helped me to be able to better see my son for who he really was and who God wanted him to be. And it helped me be more patient with him and understanding. And the conclusion that I really ultimately came to was that my son was hurt. And the way that he handled that hurt was to numb up. It made him feel like he was accepted and that he was okay. And before he could control it, it controlled him. And that it was no longer a choice that he was making, but part of him that he had to do. And that was not something that, like, now I feel like that's obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me, because he would go to jail, and he'd go to jail for like 3 months, and we would think, oh, he's going to come out and he's going to be clean, and this will be a reset, and he's going to be great. Or he would go to jail for 6 months, and same thought, like, okay, 6 months, we got this. And it was like a day maybe that he was clean, and then he would go right back to it, and it would just be soul crushing. And then we'd go to rehab and be so excited, and then he would finish, and he'd go to transitional living and overdose in the house every time, like every time. And we just couldn't figure out, like, why? And then when we figured out, this is a disease. This is a problem. This is a mental issue. It is a physical issue, and it's not going to be solved with 3 or 6 months. That's not how this gets healed. And so I think I came to that realization a little before my husband did, because I was reading all these books and trying to do all this research, and it was really helpful. And eventually I was able to kind of get him on board with my thinking. Like, we've got to be the people that he will go to. And it led us to a lot of really, really great moments with our kiddo, because so even though we missed that first Christmas and Thanksgiving, which was 8 years ago, this year, 2022, was the first year that our son spent Christmas with us since then. Yeah, and he was clean, and he was happy, and it really was amazing. I mean, I went hard on the presents. We did it all, and as I sat there and I watched my kids laughing and opening gifts and giving each other a hard time about what they got and different things, I was so emotional and just could not hold myself together, because for 10 years, this is what I've wanted. I wanted my family together. And Christmas of 2021 was about as opposite for our family as you could get from what we had this year. I put together really, really crappy stockings for my girls that, like, literally just had, like, I didn't even put toothbrushes in them. It was like candy. And I Venmo'd them money, and that was it. And I had told them at the beginning of December that I couldn't do it, that I could not celebrate Christmas. And it was, the girls were like, it's fine. Venmo us money. We'll go to Chicago. We'll go to Indy. We'll go shopping. It'll be fun. We'll do something together. And I was all like, that's great. But the day of, the reality of what I did was really hard. And it was hard for them because it was not Christmas. And it brought up a lot of anger and a lot of emotions. And there was some really harsh words in our house in those days following Christmas between our girls and me, and our girls and my husband, and me and my husband. And it was just really ugly because we had shielded our girls from so much of it, we thought, and we did to a point. But there was so much more that they knew and that they felt. And most of that was towards me because I didn't handle things well. And so it was hard to hear them complain and have really valid points in their complaints. This year at Christmas, a couple of days after Christmas, my oldest daughter, who is 23, and she came in my room, and it was pretty late at night, and she laid down on the bed with me, and she just said, "Mom, I'm really sorry. I don't think I'll ever know what you went through." She said she's in nursing school, and she's taken several addiction studies classes, and this past semester she had one. And she said, "I don't know everything that happened, but I can only imagine." And from that, there has been this growth of healing and of understanding in our family, because she then took it upon herself, because she's a much better mom than me to her little sisters, and she sat down with them And she told them, like, we have to let this go. Like, this is hard, and it's not a fun thing to go through, and we need to cut mom slack. And it was so sweet because they all did it in different ways, but it was really cute. Like my youngest, who's 16, she like made sure she cleaned the kitchen like multiple times a week, and was just like, I'm taking some burden off of you. And it's not at all the point, because it was never about me. It really was, I mean, except that I was failing. It was about them and the hurt that it caused them. I found a letter just recently that our youngest daughter wrote to herself. And she started off the letter by talking about how much she hated her brother. And how she didn't really know him. He's 10 years older than her. And she said, I don't even really know him, and I hate him. But I also love him so much that every time he's home, I just can't sit close enough to him. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And she talked about how she had a lot of anger over the fact that I would drop everything when he had a crisis. And I would, get up at 2 a.m. to drive him to the airport, to take him to rehab, and everything else got canceled that day. Or I would, pick up the phone and get a call that he was over here and had overdosed, and I would just leave dinner and go. And how she hated that. She hated that I dropped everything for him, and she felt like it was taking away her time. And then she said, but I think my mom would do it for me too. Thanks. Thanks. I would do it for her. And she doesn't know. And that I found that letter. Just that I found that letter. But it helped me to see. That I needed to be more aware. That I needed to be more aware of that. And it was an opportunity for me to talk to Caleb about it and share with him her words. I think that really impacted him. I think it helped that he was 3 months clean when I did it. That was the longest he had ever been clean 10 years ago. And it really hit him. And so what we saw was that we get ice cream every night. So we get ice cream every night in our house. We eat ice cream. And Avery's usually our runner to go get the ice cream. He started going. And right now they're planning to go to Michigan to go snowboarding together. He's putting effort to knowing her, to be knowing her and being involved in her life. And nothing makes me more happy than to see her. Now she'll holler downstairs and say, I'm going to get ice cream. Are you coming? I'm like, that's my kids together. And we had at Halloween, my older girls were home. Had separate Halloween parties to go to. Caleb asked both of them if he could. That was interesting because Libby's her boyfriend, and Libby's going with her boyfriend, and it's like, he was like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. She got real mad. Why? Why? He's my brother. Why would that? He's my brother. Why would that? He stood his ground, and he stood his ground. She stood hers, and it was a whole thing. But he asked Emma, who is 6 years younger than him, if he could go with her. And she was like, make sure it's cool. Yeah, let me call my friend. Make sure it's cool. She was like, yeah, you can go with me. She was like, yeah, you can go with me. Planning their costumes. 2 weeks planning their costumes. It was ridiculous. Caleb went all out. This was a really fun Halloween party. I could tell him it was getting nervous. Like that way. And like that day. I told her, I said, listen, just call me, I'll come get it. If you get uncomfortable, call me. Okay. And I didn't hear from her for like 2 hours. So I texted her. Everything okay? I got the best picture back. Taking a selfie. Smiling. She's smiling. And she said, it's awesome. He walked in and acted like he knew everybody here. Acted like he knew everybody here. Friends with him now. Really friends with him now. And just those moments of healing. And it's hard. And it's hard being involved with JCAP. Being involved with JCAP. So many benefits. So many benefits. That it helped me understand. There was also this hard side. This really hard side involved with JCAP. And for a long time, I would watch these people. I would watch this program, and I would come through the program, and I would see the changes in them, and maturity that happened, the maturity, how bad they wanted this, how bad they wanted them leave the jail. I would see them leave the jail, and I would get the pictures, and I would get the invitations to the invitations, the baby shower, wedding, or the baby house, and my kid was living on the streets in Houston, Texas, and shooting 2 to 3 grams of heroin a day. And I just felt this like, he's never gonna do this. Or then there were times when rehab, or just get out of jail, he would be saying the right things, and I would be really hopeful. But I would see one of my past graduates, or I would go to the middle of the night hospital, another person from the community that had overdosed. And I would look at them and I would think, they had this. They were so strong. They wanted it so much. They wanted it so much. They were so much more mature than my son. Never be able to do this. And I would just lose hope. And just think, how does someone get through this? And I don't have the answer to that. But I have really good examples of what can happen when you work really hard. You guys are here. And because of that, I have hope for my son. And he's doing good. It's scary. And it's scary to say it out loud. I'm afraid to say it out too many times. Somebody in the grocery store, no, he's doing so good. And then I come home and he's high. And I'm like, I'm a liar. He's not. And how did I miss this? But it happens in the blink of an eye. And it's awful. But the last time that Caleb made a mistake was back in September. And so his drug of choice has been fentanyl. This past year has been fentanyl. When Caleb's on fentanyl, kind of acts like he gets loud, and he gets loud and obnoxious. Does these really noises, and it's scary for the girls. And scary, like it's really scary, like it's really bizarre behavior. So we heard Clinton and I ran downstairs to shut him up before he woke up the girls. And I Narcaned him because that was my go-to. That was my go-to. I don't care if you're overdosing or not. I don't care if you're overdosing in my house. You can be high in my house. Right here, right now. And it was lovely. It made me feel so good. It made me feel so good. When I pulled it out, in his face, and when I pulled it out, he's always been very respectful of me. Physically, not with his mouth. Physically, he never would. And so I tackled him. If I tackled back to do that, he did fight back. And we Narcaned him. After about 10 minutes. So after about 10 minutes, he was starting to be normal. And we sat there. I started crying, and I was like, why? You've been clean for 3 weeks. Why now? And he started crying. And he was really negative. I was like, I can't do this. I'm never going to be anything else. Other people are strong. I am not. I don't deserve to live here. I don't deserve to live here. Deserve what you guys do for me. What you guys do for me. And I just want to die. And I just want to die. And we've heard him say that before. And we've heard him say that before. He's attempted that before a few different times. A few different times. And he said. The only reason. The only that reason I haven't done it. That I haven't done it today. Is because the girls are home. Is because the girls are home. And I don't want them to see that. And I don't want them to see that. And I can't stand the thought of you coming downstairs. Mom, and seeing it. So it led to a really good conversation. Of why do you feel that way? Why do you feel that way? We love you to be home. We love you. We beg you to come home. We keep letting you come home. Isn't this enough to prove to you that we love you so much? But he opened up. And he talked to us about the abuse. He talked to us about the abuse that had happened to him when he was really young. And we had known. And we knew, but we didn't, like, we knew, but like we took him to counseling. Right? Like we took him to counseling because we knew something was wrong. We knew there was a problem. We had for the last 10 years, for the last 10 years, like there's something there for you need to. You don't have to talk to us about it. Talk to somebody. So he sat there on the couch. And in pretty solid detail, he shared with us. And it was hard to hear. Because you feel like you gotta protect your kids. But in the end, he looked up. He looked up for the first time. And he said, I feel so much better. It's like a weight is lifted. And he's been clean since that day. And I think that just to wrap up here was a huge lesson for me. Because I think he needed to unburden himself. He needed to hear out loud that was not his fault. And he felt like it was. And he felt like it was because he protected by not telling us. So he felt like at 4 and 5 that he had encouraged it in some way. And I think when he said that out loud, it sounded even ridiculous. And he felt. And as I've thought about that situation so many times since, and I thought, how often do we have these burdens? We know better. We shouldn't have. We're embarrassed. We're embarrassed. We're sad. But when we kneel down and we pray, let it out. Let it out. Father in heaven, tell our Father in heaven all of our problems. We feel unburdened. And He takes that from us. And I just I've shared that with Caleb. You know what? You can do this all the time. Dad, that you feel it too. That you tell it too. And people say, I know, Mom, I pray sometimes. But for right now, things are so good. Things are so good. We are so pleased with the work that He's putting in. His room's a mess. My trash is not taken out. But I still love him very much. I'm grateful for the lessons learned over the past years. As hard as they were, me, I feel like they helped me be more compassionate. And I got to meet a lot of really great people. Who I will know for the rest of my life. And appreciate their friendships. Because I know that if I need something, I have people to call. And I am incredibly grateful for that. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, that was even better than I thought.